So involving just to kind of summarize. So I would involve more people from the development side, um, to de-risk it if possible. Often it isn't with the larger deals, and I would definitely involve consultants more. It's imperative. I've been in so many cases where consultants, as Deconstructor of Fun, for example, didn't help to sway the opinion. Sometimes they were just of the opinion that this makes sense and they're going to do it. But it definitely added that another perspective on the deal where somebody comes in, they don't have to make this deal. When you're paying a consultant, they're not tied to whether this deal goes through or not. They can say, hey, this these are a lot of red flags, and when they ask you, like, would you go through it? You'd say, no, because of 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And that might change the sort of a crazy dynamic and push it to the side of if it's even split of whether they're going to go in or not. That can sway towards a more of a balanced decision making, because again, being in multiple different cases from hundreds of thousands to hundreds of millions, and even billions, actually, yeah, that didn't go through. I've been seeing that when the company wants to acquire somebody, they will start seeing everything in positive lights, and they will try to make cases of why this acquisition should go through
Mm-hmm.
rather than why this shouldn't go through. And it's very important to constantly have even like a third person there to say, like, hey, I know we're thinking about this way of thinking. Let's take the opposite stance. And maybe you take the one who's most bullish and ask them to take a stance to be against it. And the one who's most against it, now you take the bullish stance. And let's now have this discussion again to kind of use these type of tactics. And it's quite interesting because then you start finding the middle lane. And once everybody, like, the end result, whether you acquire a company or not, the end result has to be that you know exactly the risks, you know exactly where you're getting into, you know exactly why you're getting into, and now you can execute against the strategy rather than somebody individually wanted to make this acquisition or somebody individually wanted to not make this acquisition. So that's where I'm kind of at the end at.
Yeah, thank you. Very good thoughts, and we're reaching also the end for
Yeah.
today. I'm sure there will be more, especially on the PMI part. But you covered like one of the key reasons that I didn't mention at the beginning, like that I tried to
Mm-hmm.
summarize, which is a human bias and personal motive. And it's easy to fall into this exactly where you have either a sponsor or somebody who's like leading the initiative for the acquisition. And a very effective way is to bring in people who have no skin in the game to have this acquisition go through and to have more neutral, objective feedback
Yeah.
of, are you doing this acquisition for the right reason? And have you looked really into the all the, I would say, the risk that could destroy the value of what you're buying? Because at the end of the day, you can either negotiate the value up or
Mm-hmm.
down based on what you discover, right? So having an objective acquisition, but humans get in the way and bias, as you shared. And maybe that's kind of a point of reflection for today for this conversation. Like,
Yeah.
no person alone can go through this kind of deal being fully objective. It's really hard.
Yeah, I would say, like, the human side is so important because if you look at like, let's say Chris Petrovic, who's like one of the best in this corporate development, during his time, the acquisitions that Zynga made, from Gram Games to Peak Games to Small Giant, and Rolik, when you talk to him, like, even now, like when we do an event in Deconstructor Fun in Istanbul, he still meets up with the founders whose companies he's acquired, because it's not that he met them when the acquisition was happening. He actually met them for years, and he developed relationships with these people in these companies, and that is the human aspect of it, because with the best cases, like, you have to have that relationship with the founders for a long time before you actually pull the trigger, because when the time comes and they're ready to sell, there will be most likely a lot of different acquirers. And if you have built relationship, if they trust you, if they know you, you will be able to get that deal often by a lot cheaper. So his individual value, again, I don't know the deals, I don't know the other bidders, but oftentimes when we're talking about corporate development guys who are really guys and ladies who are really like boiling the ocean, meeting with everybody, creating these lasting relationships and friendships with these people, they are worth of tens of millions of dollars, because when they will sign, they will take tens of millions of dollars less by joining the company where they know the people, where they have met, and when they have been talking for years in advance. And that's very important to remember. And that is the value of like the direct value of great corporate development people.
Yeah. Well, we'll close with thoughts on the human aspect and follow up in future conversation. Well, thanks a lot, Miska, for sharing your experience. And note for myself, I tried to get to Chris as a contrast of this conversation today, or someone who's been really involved in M&A and having also solid theories about how to play the long-term game of
Yes.
acquisition and growth.
No, just so I'll finish it up with the key feedback that I not feedback. It was like a mental note or a strategy that I got from a person, and I used it ever since. Not for very long, but for several years. And he said the name of the game is not uh, you know he's, I think he's like, I'm paraphrasing. He said the name of the game is who can make most friends. That was what he kind
Mm.
of said when I asked about that person's company being acquired. And as you were asking, kind of like, sometimes these doesn't make sense, and like why and so forth. There's something that I'm not seeing. What is the number? It's like, who has the most friends? And if you are in the category of your friends, and your net worth is your network, those are all the elements, because you'll be on top of the list all the time.
Mhm. All right. Oh, thanks a lot, Mishka, for sharing. And good to have you on board again, and looking forward to your future topic, hot topic.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody. And as always, 5 stars for Sophie, whatever platform you're using. Like and share, and join Sophie's Rise and Play Slack group with a lot of people who want to learn about interesting things. I don't know how you join it, but maybe if you sign up for the newsletter on Rise and Play website, you'll be able to join the Slack channel.
Yes. Or you are a speaker on the podcast. That's how it
Yeah,
works.
or you're a speaker on the podcast. So get on the podcast and join the Slack group, and get all the secret information on the Slack group. So thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Sophie, for the questions, even though I was supposed to ask the questions. But thank you for hosting.
Thank you. Take
All right,
care.
goodbye, everybody.